She ignored your texts. She chose him over you. She made you feel invisible, but then something happened. And suddenly, she sees what she lost. Here's exactly when a woman realizes the value of the man she took for granted. There's a moment in every woman's life when reality hits her like a freight train. The man she dismissed, the man she thought would always be there, the man she took for granted, is gone. And in that silence, she finally understands what she had. Today, we're diving deep into female psychology to understand exactly when and how women realize the true value of a man they didn't appreciate. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about making anyone feel bad. This is about understanding human nature, attachment, and the psychology of loss. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Most people, men and women alike, don't appreciate what they have until it's gone. It's human nature. We get comfortable. We get complacent. We start believing that the good things in our life will always be there, waiting for us, no matter how we treat them. But here's what happens specifically with women in relationships. When a woman has a good man in her life, a man who's consistent, loyal, supportive, and present, she often doesn't see his value immediately. Why? Because his consistency becomes her baseline. His effort becomes expected. His presence becomes invisible. Think about it like this. When you live in a house with air conditioning, you don't think about the air conditioning. You just expect it to work. But the moment it breaks down on a hot summer day, suddenly you realize how valuable it was. That's exactly what happens in relationships. The process of realization doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey that unfolds in very specific stages. And understanding these stages will give you incredible insight into female psychology and human behavior in general. Stage 1. The comfort zone. In the beginning, when a woman is with a man who treats her well, she feels secure. She knows he's there. She knows he cares. She knows he'll answer her calls, show up when he says he will, and be consistent in his affection and attention. But here's the psychological trap. This security, this consistency, it starts to feel ordinary. The excitement fades, not because the man changed, but because predictability replaced novelty. She stops seeing his actions as choices and starts seeing them as obligations. He's supposed to be there. He's supposed to care. He's supposed to make effort. During this stage, she might start testing boundaries. She might pull back to see if he'll chase harder. She might create drama to feel that intensity again. She might even start comparing him to other men, real or imagined, who seem more exciting simply because they're unknown. The man, sensing this shift, often makes a critical mistake. He tries harder. He gives more. He becomes more available, more accommodating, more predictable. And paradoxically, this makes her take him even more for granted. Because in her subconscious mind, his increased effort confirms what she already believed. He'll always be there, no matter what. What's happening psychologically here is a shift in perceived value. When something is always available, always accessible, always given freely, the human brain starts to devalue it. This isn't conscious or intentional. It's a survival mechanism built into us from thousands of years of evolution. Our ancestors needed to constantly seek resources, opportunities, and advantages. Contentment with what we have wasn't always beneficial for survival. In modern relationships, this ancient wiring creates problems. A woman in this comfort zone starts to feel like the relationship is stagnant. She might tell her friends she's bored. She might say she wants more excitement, more passion, more intensity, but what she's really experiencing is the natural adaptation to consistency. The tragedy is that she interprets this normal psychological adaptation as a problem with the man or the relationship, when in reality, it's just her brain doing what brains do. They adapt, they normalize. They stop producing the same dopamine response to the same stimulus over time. Stage 2, the alternative. This is where things get interesting. Often, a woman doesn't realize what she has until she sees an alternative, or thinks she sees one. Maybe there's another man showing interest. Maybe she starts entertaining the idea that she could do better. Maybe she starts believing the grass is greener somewhere else. Here's what's fascinating from a psychological perspective. The human brain is wired to focus on what we don't have rather than what we do have. It's called the scarcity principle. Things that are harder to get seem more valuable, even if they're objectively not better. So she might start giving attention to someone who gives her less consistency, less security, less genuine care. But because he's less available, less predictable, less invested, her brain tricks her into thinking he's more valuable. The challenge becomes confused with worth. During this stage, the good man she took for granted becomes almost invisible. She's so focused on this new possibility, this new excitement, that she completely overlooks the steady, reliable, genuine love that's been there all along. She might even start treating him worse, not because he did anything wrong, but because she's already mentally checked out. She's already convinced herself that something better exists out there. And in her mind, she's justified this by finding small flaws in him, magnifying minor issues, rewriting history to paint him as less than he was. This is where cognitive dissonance comes into play. Her actions don't match her previous feelings, so her brain needs to create a narrative that makes sense of this disconnect. She starts remembering arguments more than good times. She focuses on his flaws rather than his strengths. She convinces herself that she was never that happy anyway. The alternative doesn't even have to be a specific person. Sometimes it's just the idea of being single and free. The fantasy of endless possibilities, the romance of starting fresh with someone new who doesn't know her flaws, who still sees her as perfect, who hasn't seen her at her worst. Social media amplifies this stage dramatically. She sees other couples posting highlight reels of their relationships. She sees single friends posting about exciting dates and adventures. She sees influencers talking about never settling and knowing your worth. All of this feeds into the belief that what she has isn't enough, that she deserves more, that better is out there waiting. What she doesn't see is the reality behind those posts. The couples fighting off camera, the single friends crying alone at night, the influencers promoting unrealistic standards that lead to perpetual dissatisfaction. She only sees the curated version, and it makes her current reality seem lacking by comparison. Stage 3. The departure. Then comes the turning point. The man she took for granted finally has enough. He stops chasing. He stops trying to prove his worth. He stops making himself available at her convenience. He chooses himself. He walks away. And this is where everything changes in her psychology, because what she expected was that he would always be there, waiting, hoping, trying. What she didn't expect was that he would value himself enough to leave. Initially, she might feel relief. She might feel validated in her choice. She might think, see, he gave up. He wasn't that invested anyway. This is a defense mechanism. Her ego is protecting her from the truth. But here's what happens next. The silence sets in. The consistency she took for granted is now gone. The man who always texted good morning, who always checked in, who always made plans, who always showed up, isn't there anymore. And suddenly, that absence is deafening. In the first few days, she might not even notice the full impact. She's busy. She's distracted. She's convincing herself that this is what she wanted. But then the little moments start adding up. She reaches for her phone to share something funny and realizes he's not there to send it to. She has a bad day and instinctively wants to call him, but stops herself. She sees something that reminds her of an inside joke they had, and there's no one to share it with. The absence becomes tangible. It's not just that he's gone. It's that the entire structure of her daily life that was built around his presence starts to crumble. She realizes how many of her routines involved him, how many of her thoughts included him, how much of her life was actually intertwined with his. This is when the first cracks in her certainty start to appear. She might check his social media obsessively, looking for signs that he's miserable without her. Instead, she sees him living his life, seemingly fine, maybe even happy. This confuses her. This wasn't part of the script she wrote in her head. Stage 4, the comparison. Now she's free to explore those alternatives she thought were so much better. She goes on dates with men who seemed exciting from a distance. She entertains conversations with guys who gave her attention while she was taken. And here's the brutal reality she discovers. Most of those men aren't better. In fact, many are worse. The guy who seemed mysterious was actually just emotionally unavailable. The man who seemed confident was actually just arrogant. The person who made her feel butterflies was actually just inconsistent and unreliable. She starts noticing all the small things the previous man did that she never appreciated. He remembered her favorite coffee order. He asked about her day and actually listened. He showed up when he said he would. He made her feel safe. He was proud to be with her. He introduced her to his friends and family. He planned futures, not just moments. All those things that seemed boring and ordinary when she had them now seem incredibly rare and valuable when she's experiencing the opposite. She's dating men who can't commit, who play games, who are selfish, who don't make effort, who see her as an option rather than a priority. This comparison phase is brutal because it's filled with regret. Every disappointing date, every flaky guy, every shallow conversation reminds her of what she had and didn't value. She goes on a date with a guy who talks about himself the entire time and never asks her a single question. She remembers how her ex always wanted to know about her thoughts, her feelings, her day. She goes on a date with a guy who tries to split the bill down to the cent. She remembers how her ex always insisted on taking care of her, not because he thought she couldn't pay, but because he wanted to. She talks to a guy who only texts her late at night with obvious intentions. She remembers how her ex would text her throughout the day just to make her smile, with no agenda, no expectations, just genuine desire to connect with her. She meets a guy who's great on paper, but has no emotional depth. She remembers the deep conversations she had with her ex at 3 a.m. about life, dreams, fears, and hopes. She remembers how he understood her without her having to explain everything. The worst part of this stage is realizing that the qualities she took for granted are actually incredibly rare. In a world full of men who are inconsistent, emotionally unavailable, commitment-phobic, and selfish, she had someone who was none of those things, and she let him go. Stage 5. The realization. This is the moment of truth. This is when she fully understands what she lost. It usually happens in a quiet moment. Maybe she's alone at night. Maybe she sees a couple doing something simple that reminds her of him. Maybe she hears a song. Maybe she has a bad day and instinctively reaches for her phone to text him before remembering he's not there anymore. The realization hits her in waves. She thinks about specific moments. The time she was sick and he brought her soup without being asked. The time she was stressed about work and he just held her without trying to fix anything. The time she was insecure and he made her feel beautiful without any agenda. The time she made a mistake and he forgave her without holding it over her head. She realizes that love isn't about excitement and butterflies and drama. Real love is about consistency, loyalty, effort, and genuine care. She realizes that the man she took for granted was actually rare. He was actually valuable. He was actually exactly what she needed, but she was too blind to see it. This realization often comes with physical symptoms: a pit in her stomach, difficulty sleeping, loss of appetite, constant replay of memories in her mind. This is her body responding to the psychological stress of profound regret. She starts remembering conversations differently. Things he said that she dismissed at the time now carry weight. When he told her he loved her and she responded with a casual, "Love you too," without looking up from her phone. When he asked if she was happy and she said yes, but her tone said otherwise. When he tried to plan special dates and she complained about being tired. She remembers the look in his eyes when she criticized him for small things. The way his smile faded when she compared him to other men. The way he stopped sharing his feelings after she dismissed them one too many times. She sees now that she was slowly killing his spirit, and he endured it far longer than he should have. The realization becomes all-consuming. She can't focus at work. She can't enjoy time with friends. Everything reminds her of him and what she lost. Her friends might tell her to move on, to stop dwelling, but they don't understand the depth of her regret. They didn't see what she had. They don't know what she threw away. Stage 6. The aftermath. What happens next varies from woman to woman. Some reach out. They apologize. They try to explain. They want another chance. They promise they've changed, they've realized, they understand now. But here's the thing about realizations that come from loss. They're often too late. Because while she was taking him for granted, he was building resentment. While she was exploring other options, he was healing and moving forward. While she was blind to his value, he was learning his worth. Some men give second chances. Some relationships are rebuilt stronger because both people learned painful lessons. But many men, once they've walked away and rebuilt their self-respect, don't come back. They've seen that they can survive without her. They've learned that their value isn't dependent on her recognition. They've discovered that there are women out there who will appreciate them from the start. When she does reach out, the conversation often goes differently than she expects. She might send a long message explaining everything she realized, expecting him to be relieved, grateful even that she finally understands. Instead, she might get a short, polite response that thanks her for sharing but makes it clear he's moved on. Or worse, no response at all. This silence is devastating because it confirms what she feared most. She really did lose him, not just physically, but emotionally. He's no longer invested. He's no longer holding space for her in his life. He's genuinely done. Some women spiral at this point. They become obsessed with getting him back, not because they truly love him, but because they can't accept that they made such a catastrophic mistake. They want to undo it. They want to go back in time. They want another chance to do it right. But time doesn't work that way. Relationships don't work that way. You can't repeatedly hurt someone and expect them to keep their heart open to you indefinitely. There's a limit to how much dismissal, neglect, and being taken for granted a person can endure before they emotionally disconnect completely. The psychology behind it all. So why does this pattern exist? Why do women and people in general take good partners for granted? First, there's the psychological concept of hedonic adaptation. Humans naturally adapt to positive circumstances. What once brought us joy becomes our new normal. The same way a salary increase feels amazing for a month and then becomes expected, a partner's consistent love and effort becomes invisible over time. Second, there's the fear of settling. In modern dating culture, there's this constant message that there's always someone better, always another option, always something more. This creates a perpetual state of dissatisfaction where people are always wondering if they're missing out on something better. Third, there's the challenge of truly seeing people. When someone is always there, always consistent, always stable, they fade into the background of our life. We stop really seeing them. We stop appreciating the individual choices they make every day to love us, support us, and be present. Fourth, there's the value of loss. Human psychology places higher value on things we've lost than things we have. It's why people often romanticize past relationships or feel more regret about opportunities they missed than gratitude for opportunities they have. Fifth, there's the impact of attachment styles. Many women who take good men for granted have anxious or avoidant attachment styles that make them unconsciously sabotage healthy relationships. They're drawn to chaos and uncertainty because that's what feels familiar. Stability feels foreign, even threatening. Sixth, there's the influence of past trauma. Women who've been hurt before might protect themselves by not fully investing in a good man. They keep one foot out the door, maintain emotional distance, or create problems that don't exist. It's a defense mechanism, but it destroys healthy relationships. Seventh, there's the paradox of choice. With dating apps and social media, people have access to more potential partners than ever before. This creates an illusion that perfect is out there somewhere. Instead of appreciating good, they're constantly searching for perfect. And perfect doesn't exist. The lesson for everyone. If you're a man who's been taken for granted, understand this. Her inability to see your value says nothing about your worth. It speaks to her level of maturity, self-awareness, and readiness for a real relationship. The right woman will see your value from the beginning and protect what you build together. Don't let being taken for granted make you bitter or closed off. Don't let it convince you that all women are the same or that genuine love doesn't exist. It does, but it requires two people who are both mature enough, self-aware enough, and healed enough to recognize and nurture it. Use this experience to set better boundaries in future relationships. Don't accept breadcrumbs. Don't tolerate being someone's backup plan. Don't wait around for someone to realize your value. Walk away sooner. Choose yourself faster. Your time and energy are precious. Give them only to people who recognize that. If you're a woman reading this, let it be a wake-up call. If you have a good man, a man who's consistent, loyal, present, and trying, don't wait until he's gone to appreciate him. Don't test his limits until you find them. Don't assume he'll always be there no matter how you treat him. Appreciate the ordinary moments. Value the consistency. Recognize that a man who shows up every day, who makes effort without being asked, who treats you well without conditions, is actually extraordinary in a world full of people who can't or won't do the same. Stop comparing your relationship to other people's highlight reels. Stop chasing butterflies and excitement at the expense of stability and genuine care. Stop looking for reasons why it might not work instead of focusing on all the reasons it does. The truth about timing. Here's something crucial to understand. Sometimes the realization comes too late, not because the man is unwilling to reconcile, but because he's already become a different person. The experience of being taken for granted, walking away, and rebuilding changes a man fundamentally. He learns that his presence is a gift, not a given. He learns that his effort should be matched, not exploited. He learns that his love should be cherished, not tested. And once he learns these lessons, he can't unlearn them. So when she comes back, having realized what she lost, she's often coming back to a man who no longer exists. He's evolved, he's grown, he's healed, and the version of him that would have taken her back immediately, that would have been grateful for the second chance, that version is gone. This is perhaps the most painful part of the entire journey for women who realize too late. They're not just grieving the loss of the man. They're grieving the loss of who they could have been together. They're grieving the future they could have had. They're grieving the life they threw away. And no amount of apologies, promises, or changed behavior can bring back what's been lost. Because trust, once broken repeatedly, is incredibly difficult to rebuild. And a heart once closed after being taken for granted for too long doesn't easily open again to the same person who caused the pain. The path forward. For women in this situation, the path forward requires radical honesty and genuine change. If you've realized what you lost, the first step isn't trying to get him back. It's understanding why you took him for granted in the first place. What insecurities drove you? What fears made you push away someone good? What patterns from your past repeated in this relationship? Work on yourself. Go to therapy. Journal. Reflect deeply. Understand that if you don't address the root causes, you'll repeat this pattern with the next person. And the pattern will get worse each time because you'll carry more regret, more fear, more self-doubt. If you do reach out, do so without expectations. Apologize not because you want him back, but because he deserves to hear it. Acknowledge what you did without making excuses. Don't blame your behavior on being young, confused, or scared. Own it completely. And if he doesn't respond, or if he responds but makes it clear he's moved on, respect that. Don't try to manipulate him with tears or grand gestures. Don't make him responsible for your healing. Let him go with grace, even though it hurts more than anything you've ever experienced. For men reading this, understand that if she comes back, you have every right to protect yourself. You don't owe her another chance just because she finally realized what she had. You get to decide if reopening that door is worth the risk. You get to prioritize your peace and your healing. If you do consider giving her another chance, set clear boundaries. Make it clear that things will be different this time, that your effort will be matched, that your value will be recognized consistently, not just when she's scared of losing you again. And if those boundaries aren't respected, be willing to walk away immediately. Moving forward, whether you're the person who took someone for granted or the person who was taken for granted, there's growth available in this experience. For those who didn't appreciate what they had, the lesson is about gratitude, presence, and the danger of always looking for something better instead of nurturing what's in front of you. For those who were undervalued, the lesson is about self-worth, boundaries, and the importance of walking away from situations where you're not appreciated. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see it. The most powerful thing you can do is become the kind of person who appreciates good people while you have them. Don't wait for loss to teach you gratitude. Don't wait for regret to teach you value. Look at the people in your life who show up for you, who care about you, who make effort for you, and appreciate them now. Because one day they might not be there. And the realization of what you had will come, but it might come too late. And you'll join the countless people who learned the hardest way that some chances don't come twice, some people don't come back, and some lessons cost more than we ever imagined. Value the people who value you. Appreciate the love that's consistent. Cherish the partners who choose you every day, because the alternative is a lesson in regret that will stay with you for a lifetime. The truth is, we all have limited time on this earth. We all have a finite number of moments with the people we love. Wasting those moments by taking people for granted, by not being fully present, by always looking elsewhere for something better, is a tragedy we create for ourselves. Don't let the realization of someone's value come after they're gone. Let it come now while you still have time to show them, to tell them, to build something beautiful together, because that's the only way to avoid becoming another person who looks back with regret, wishing they had appreciated what they had when they had it.